MilSpec AR-15 triggers are fine. They're reliable, robust, they work great, and they're very, very usable for duty, combat, even some more precision type of shooting if you have good practice with them. Personally, I like two-stage triggers. I put Geissele's in all my AR-15s, AR-10s, things like that. But I thought to myself, how good could you make a MilSpec single-stage AR-15 trigger feel just by, polishing some of the components a little bit? And I do a lot of trigger work on pistols primarily, but rifles too. So I thought I would do this. What I have here is a 3D printed trigger holder demonstrator. I will link in the description down below to the Thingiverse page where I found this. So shout out to the creator of this, whoever you are. I put extra grip I had laying around on it. This is a MilSpec AR-15 trigger set, just right out of the bag. I stuck the safety in there without the detent just because that limits over travel of the trigger like it's supposed to. Right here is the actual sear face, so when you pull the trigger back, it releases that and the hammer goes forward. Then as the bolt carrier group cycles back and you're still holding the trigger, this comes back. That hook that's moving right now is the disconnector, grabs the hammer, and then when you let go of the trigger, it lets the hammer go forward and rest back on the sear, and the trigger is reset. So I installed this in here. I put grease on everything. You wouldn't be running this dry if you installed it in a gun first thing, so I wanted to get accurate trigger feel and trigger pull readings from this before I started my polishing work on it. So I will quickly demonstrate the action. I'm sure we're all familiar with this, but single stage trigger, creep, 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 and then it lets go. It's gritty. Of course, it hasn't had any time for the parts to wear into each other, so it's going to be gritty. Reset, positive, audible, tactile, also very gritty. Boom. So there's the stock action. I'm going to go ahead and get it on my trigger pull gauge and see where we're at. 5.5, a little over 5.5 pounds. Just under 6 pounds. About 6.25. I was a little high on the trigger. So that's what we're dealing with. We're going to call it about 6 pounds. And I want to see how much I can lighten it up by doing the polishing I'm going to do. Who knows how much I'll be able to reduce the trigger pull weight just based on the springs that I have in there. So what's going to get polished is the sear surface on the hammer, the sear surface on the trigger, so this interface right here, and then the this bottom side of this disconnector hook and the top side of the hammer where the disconnector grabs. But I'm also going to polish the bottom side right here of that hammer hook and the top side of the disconnector hook, because when you fire it, those two rub against each other before the disconnector locks up. And then within the trigger itself, I'm going to polish the interface between the inside of the trigger housing and the sides of the disconnector to smooth up that action as well, and that should make a pretty big difference. Tools I'm going to use for this, going to start out with a 1000 grit kind of softer stone to rough things in and get the most of that nitride or phosphate finish off. Then I'm going to hit it with, this is an India stone. I believe these are kind of equivalent to 1500 or 2000 grit. And then this is a really, really fine, high quality, hard ceramic stone to do the final polish. Honestly, you could use fine grit sandpaper for this, but you'd want to wrap it around something solid so it doesn't deform and take your sharp edges off of things. Just got done with polishing, took me all of 15-20 minutes. I ran a stone this way over this guy on the sides. You can see where I knocked down the high spots. This surface right here, the underside right there. This surface right here where the sear runs, and you can see there's still some phosphate in the center there, but it doesn't matter because the sear only interacts with this upper part right here, which has a nice shiny finish on it. And then on the hammer, this is the surface that the sear interacts with. This is what pushes the disconnector out of the way, and this is the ledge where the disconnector slips off of when the trigger resets. All reassembled here after the polishing. Everything feels a lot smoother. There's no grittiness whatsoever in the trigger action, the pull or the reset. It feels like maybe it dropped a pound or two. Wow, 3 3/4 pounds. £4 pounds. About 3.5. Right around 3.5. So, with about 20 minutes of polishing work, I just took a AR-STONER cheapo MilSpec AR trigger from 6 pounds down to about somewhere between 3.5 and 4 pounds. That's a pretty good result. This feels really good.